Okay, continue in our discussions. Now let us go through about the carbon cycle. Yeah. After the biogeochemical cycle, the first example that you have to actually go through is carbon cycle. The second one is actually known as the nitrogen cycle. Okay, so before we start our discussion, you need to actually know who are the reservoirs for the carbon and what is the form of cycling or the organic compound that we can actually observe in the cycling pool. Okay, so we go into the part that you used to learn before, which is the carbons that found in living organism. So the carbons that found in living organism is present in the organic compound. Okay, it is present in the organic compound that presents in the form of carbohydrates. So any examples of carbohydrates, they must contain carbon, like the glucose, fructose, sucrose, and then any kind of lipids, any types of DNA and RNA, and also lastly any type of protein. They are the organic compound that must contain the carbon as their main element. Okay, so from where does the organism can actually synthesize this organic compound is through the process photosynthesis. So in this particular, in order to form the cycling pool, and one of the main process that presents that must be discussed is the photosynthesis. Then the second process, which is from the producer to consumer or from consumer to consumer. So organic compound can only be synthesized by the producer. So how can they are being passing from one trophic level to another trophic level? So it's by the process like consuming, it's like through the interaction between the living organisms. So here we are actually talking about the assimilation process. Okay, so the assimilation process. So when we discuss about cycling pool, we have to focus in the photosynthesis and the assimilation. Then reservoir, who are the most main reservoir for carbon will be the carbon dioxide gas that presents at the atmosphere. Okay, this is the first and the main reservoir that we know nowadays for the carbon. But if you look at your reference, you're going to notice that it is not only the carbon dioxide at the atmosphere, but we also have others reservoir for carbon. Example like the fossils, the soil, the sediments that present inside the aquatic ecosystem. So they are actually part of the fossil, the soil, the sediments that contain the organic carbon. They are part of the lithosphere. Okay, they are found on the land. Then we also have some dissolved carbon compound. Okay, we can have the dissolved inorganic carbon or the dissolved organic carbons that found inside the oceans. Okay, so they are part of the reservoirs that present in the hydrosphere. Okay, so then this will be the several reservoir that you have to know. So what is the process that involved in order to remove the carbons from the organic form from the inorganic form into the organic form is always through the process photosynthesis. So once the organic compound has formed, then how they're passing through from one organism to another organism. So it's always by assimilation. This is the basic. So during the if present on land, so during the photosynthesis, okay, so the producer will take up the carbon dioxide or remove the carbon dioxide from atmosphere and change them to become any kind of organic compound. Example like glucose, example like starch. Okay, then this particular organic compound will further passing through the next trophic level to others consumer. Okay, so they will first digest, then continue by assimilation. So a lot of students will ask, what is assimilation? So you have learned about assimilation before this. Okay, assimilation is basically the process when a simple molecule, a simple organic molecule, is actually rearranged to form a complex organic molecule so that they can carry out specific functions. Okay, so that they can carry out specific function. So that is assimilation. Okay, that is assimilation. Okay, so or if you use example, it will be more easier. So when we eat, okay, when we eat something, okay, example, if I eat a meat, okay, a meat is actually a complex protein. Okay, a meat is actually a complex protein. So when we eat the egg or when we eat the meat, then what will happen to the protein? The protein will break down by the enzyme to form amino acids. Okay, to form amino acid. So this is actually the process known as digestion. So when we eat something, the enzyme help us to break down the protein into amino acid. This is digestion. So after the digestion, this amino acid will be absorbed by our body system through the small intestine. So once they enter the small intestine, our body system will rearrange the amino acid back into the protein. Example, collagen, let's say. Okay, or example, they will rearrange the amino acid back into the form of hemoglobin. Okay, and then use inside the red blood cells. So collagen used on the surface of the skin. So different protein will carry out different functions. So the process to rearrange the amino acid through the protein synthesis forming the protein, this is actually the assimilation, part of the assimilation. Okay, so now clear about what is assimilation. So photosynthesis and assimilation both is the very main process that happen inside the carbon cycle. Why? Because they involve first the removal of the carbon from the reservoirs to become the organic compound, and then from the organic compound, how they are passing from one living organism to another living organism. So this is the cycling pool. So the part that we circle up, this is actually the part of the cycling pool. So and then this is a process to remove. So once they actually remove the carbon dioxide, does they produce the carbons into the reservoir or back into the reservoir? Thus the producer and the consumer can produce the carbon dioxide? The answer is yes. Both of them can actually produce the carbon dioxide through the process cellular respiration. Okay, so if they are producing the energies by ATP, producing the ATP, then definitely they remove carbon dioxide. So this process is called cellular respiration. So through respiration, through cellular respiration, carbon dioxide is returned back to the atmosphere or to the reservoir. Okay, another process that will also remove carbon dioxide is called decomposition. It's called decomposition, which is actually the breakdown of the dead organic compound, the breakdown of the dead organic metal, by the decomposer with the help of decomposer. So this particular deaf organic matter is actually produced when the consumer or the producer deaf. Okay, when they deaf, the deaf organic matter can actually break down by the decomposer, and then through the process decomposition, they will also release the carbon as carbon dioxide. Some of these deaf organic matter do not actually return to the atmosphere as when they break down by decomposer, some of them is actually being stored or being dissolved inside the soil, so they become part of the soil carbon. So this kind of soil carbon, due to some of the earth movement, okay, so due to some of the process that happen on earth, they will eventually form the fossil. They can become the fossil. So this is called the process fossilization. But seldom, most of the time, the deaf organic matter will be break down by decomposer. But some of them, in a very small amount of the chances, fossilization can actually take place, forming the fossils by the deaf organic matter. So those which is brewing or burial very deep into the earth, then maybe due to the high pressure, they can actually form the fossil. So this kind of fossil can only return the carbon dioxide to the atmosphere if human is actually dig out this particular fossil and then make it become a fossil fuel and then burn the fossil fuel. So the combustion of the fossil fuel will be the reasons that can cause the carbon dioxide return the carbons to the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is actually involve human activity. Okay, so that is the basic on the carbon cycle. So this is the basic on the carbon cycle. Okay, so in a general way, carbon cycle, this is actually all the information that you have to know about the carbon cycle. So when we learn about the carbon cycle, you have to always remember. So even though we said the largest reservoir nowadays is the carbon dioxide that present in atmosphere. Okay, that present in atmosphere. But we know that carbon dioxide is actually a type of greenhouse gases. Okay, it is actually a type of greenhouse gas. So when it is a type of greenhouse gas, meaning that accumulation of the carbon dioxide eventually can cause the global warming to occur. Okay, or they will cause the greenhouse effect to take place, which is a bit harmful for the ecosystem. So how does human, or nowadays, how does the whole earth, the earth is actually make sure the carbon dioxide is not that much on the atmosphere, or how can the carbon dioxide be reduced? So the process to reduce, okay, the process reducing the carbon dioxide at the atmosphere, the process reducing the carbon dioxide at the atmosphere actually have a name. We call them as the carbon sequestration. Okay, we call them as carbon sequestration. So carbon sequestration can happen naturally. Okay, they can happen naturally, or they can also become a human involved activity. Okay, we can make it artificially to remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by storing the carbons deep into the ocean, or pump it deep into the ocean, or storage it deep into the land. This is by human, artificially by human, which is first of all very high cost. Okay, very high cost. Okay, they can also happen naturally through several processes. One of the process we already mentioned just now is by the help of biotic component. Okay, with the help of biotic component through the process photosynthesis. Through the process photosynthesis. Okay, so this process is called biosequestration. Okay, it's called biosequestration. With the help of the plant or the help of the phytoplankton in the oceans, so the carbon dioxide at the atmosphere can remove, okay, or store it inside the organic compound through the process photosynthesis. So this is method number one. Okay, this is method number one. So for natural way, the second method is also present. Okay, because the acidity of the ocean, or because the ocean is actually contain a high amount of salt, it will always trigger the dissolve of the carbon dioxide. The dissolve of the carbon dioxide into the ocean, forming the dissolved inorganic carbons. This particular dissolved inorganic carbon, like the HCO3 minus or the CO3 2 minus, this kind of molecule part of them can used by the photosynthetic marine organism like the phytoplankton to carry out the photosynthesis, but most of them will sink into the deep ocean, through the deep circulations wave. Okay, through the deep circulation wave that presents on the ocean. So they will sink into the deep ocean and then become part of the sediments. Okay, become part of the sinking sediments that found on the surface of the deep ocean. Okay, and then this is also another method of removing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into the ocean, and this one is actually take a larger portions of the carbon dioxide out from the atmosphere as well. So the next video we're going to continue with the discussion of the nitrogen cycle.